Escondido has historically elected its city council members in citywide elections, but starting next year, Escondido council members will be elected in the same way they are in San Diego City, by district. Here with more on how the new districts will be drawn and what it means to voters are retired San Diego County Sheriff Bill Flores. He's a member of the independent commission that will draw up the new voting districts, and Lori Schellenberger, director of the ACLU's statewide voting rights project. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Lori, how did the court determine that the elections in Escondido up until now were a violation of the Voting Rights Act?
Well, the city of Escondido was sued for a violation of the California Voting Rights Act. The allegation was that those elections resulted in the dilution of the Latino voting power in the city, and the city admitted liability. We say they admitted there was a history of polarized voting whereby whites were outvoting the Latinos in terms of their preferred candidates, and so the city agreed to a consent decree whereby the city will now shift to district elections.
And I understand Escondido is about 50% Latino. Has that been reflected, or how has that not been reflected up until now?
In the 123-year history of the city, only 2 Latinos have ever been elected to the city council.
Okay. And Bill, what are you hoping the new voting districts will change when in Escondido?
Well, one of the purposes, after reading the consent decree, that kind of stands out is that it wants to, the goal would be to increase the chances of a minority candidate to get elected. Because since city council candidates will be running in a smaller area, that is districts, it wouldn't take quite as much resources, and the issues would be more focused. And if one of the districts, for example, might have an ethnic minority majority, the chances for a minority candidate to be elected is greatly enhanced.
And there's going to be 4, to be clear, right? 4 new districts?
4 new districts,
okay.
Correct.
What are the factors that need to be considered in determining where these district boundaries are drawn?
Right. Well, there are a number of factors, not only the demographics of the population living in those districts, but also you have to look at natural boundaries, the fact that the districts need to be contiguous, but also there's a concept called the community of interest, and we try not to separate or divide communities of interest. And that is, the definition of that is kind of all-encompassing. A community of interest could mean more than just a neighborhood. I mean, it could be a church-type thing. It could be
sort of a collective area of something that is important to that neighborhood.
Of a commonality that people living there have, yeah.
I see. Well, I do want to say that we invited Escondido Mayor Sam Abed to join in on this conversation. He did not respond to our request, but in a UT article, he is quoted as saying, "Focusing on ethnicity is counter to my goal of uniting the city. Creating one large Latino district will limit Latinos to one voice on the council." I want to get both your responses on that. Lori, let's start with you. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, it's not clear that one big Latino district will be drawn. I mean, this is a commission comprised of residents of the community who are interested in hearing from the community to determine how those lines will be drawn. On the other hand, you can't ignore the history of racial politics in Escondido and the fact that there is a group that has a history of being discriminated against and excluded from the electoral process. So it has to be a factor. It can't be the only factor, but that could comprise a community of interest.
And what do you think about the mayor's statement?
Well, I'm looking at it from a more practical standpoint, and that is that the existing political system has been very well, has treated Sam Abed very well. He's running for re-election. So I think that these kinds of statements would be an appeal to his voting base.
Certain group of constituents.
So he's probably trying to kind of fire up that group.
All right. Well, on that note, tonight's meeting is first of several public hearings. What kind of input, Bill, do you think that they're asking, the commission is asking from the public? What do they want to know?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, it's the input on communities of interest. Because even though I'm a resident of Escondido myself, I don't know every neighborhood and I don't know all the different communities of interest that exist out there. the more information we have about the varying communities, the more intelligent we can be in drawing the districts, because we do want to draw districts not only that are somewhat balanced in terms of population, but without separating those communities of interest that people want to stay together. We want to know about them, and we want to hear from. The more we know, the better decision we can make in drawing those boundaries.
All right. Well, I want to let folks know the latest information on the redistricting of Escondido can be found also on our website at kpbs.org. Bill Flores and Lori Schellenberger, thank you so much.
It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much for having us.